The sky was unusually quiet that evening. Cities across the globe seemed to hold their breath as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over skyscrapers and empty streets alike. Somewhere in the remote desert, a team of scientists adjusted their telescopes, eyes wide with anticipation. Something was approaching Earth, something that no human had ever seen before. Dr. Elena Harris, the lead astrophysicist at the Global Space Observation Center, wiped the sweat from her forehead. Her hands trembled slightly, not from the heat of the desert, but from the sheer impossibility of what she was witnessing. "It's huge," she whispered, voice barely audible over the hum of the equipment. The massive object moved silently, perfectly steady, unlike any asteroid or satellite. It was clearly artificial. Military satellites confirmed the readings within minutes. The object wasn't just passing by, it was slowing, adjusting its trajectory, and entering Earth's orbit with deliberate precision. Across the world, governments scrambled their top officials. Rumors spread like wildfire, but no one knew the truth. Aliens. Could it really be aliens? In Washington, General Marcus Reed sat in the Situation Room, staring at the live feed from space. His jaw tightened as he studied the object. It had a smooth, reflective surface, unlike anything human technology could produce. "Are we being observed?" he asked quietly. His assistant, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, shook her head. "We don't know, sir. But it's clear we're on their radar." Meanwhile, ordinary people began to notice strange phenomena. Power fluctuations, unusual weather patterns, and low hums resonating through cities sparked fear and curiosity. Social media exploded with speculation. Some claimed it was a government experiment. Others were convinced the end of the world had come. Back at the desert base, Dr. Harris watched the alien ship with growing awe. Its shape was unlike anything described in science fiction. Vast, angular structures that reflected light like a liquid mirror. Tiny lights moved across its surface, blinking in patterns that suggested communication, or maybe observation. "They're studying us," Elena muttered. Her colleague, Dr. Raj Patel, frowned. "Studying us? Why? We're not ready for whatever they want." Elena didn't answer. She couldn't. A shiver ran down her spine as she realized the truth. These beings had the technology to monitor the planet silently, to know every movement, every action of humanity. And they had chosen now to make their presence known. Night fell, and with it came the first sign that the aliens were not indifferent. A beam of soft blue light extended from the ship toward the desert base. Instruments went haywire. The lights danced over the sand, scanning, measuring, analyzing. Dr. Harris stepped back, heart racing. It's like they're looking right at us," she said. General Reed's team was receiving similar reports from around the globe. Ships appeared near major cities, hovering silently, watching. No weapons were deployed, no aggressive movements were made. Just observation, clinical, calculating, and unnerving. Meanwhile, small groups of civilians began documenting strange occurrences. A farmer in Kansas swore he saw creatures, tall and thin, peering from the shadows of a distant forest. A young girl in Tokyo insisted that voices whispered in her mind, asking questions she couldn't understand. No one could explain these events, and yet everyone felt the same growing fear. They were being tested. The night deepened, and the world waited in tense silence. For the first time in human history, the planet collectively realized it was not alone. And these visitors, whoever they were, had power far beyond imagination. Back in the desert, Dr. Harris noticed a pattern in the blinking lights on the ship's surface. She leaned closer, straining to decipher it. It wasn't random. There was order, structure, intelligence. The aliens weren't just observing, they were communicating. And slowly, a chilling thought took hold: they weren't here to negotiate. They were here to evaluate. As she spoke to her team, a sudden movement in the sky caught everyone off guard. The ship shifted, lowering a segment toward the Earth's surface. A ripple of fear swept through the base. For a brief moment, the world held its breath. And then, a single pulse of light shot toward the horizon, far beyond the desert, where cities slept unaware. Dr. Patel swallowed hard. "They're testing our reactions," he said. His voice trembled. "They want to see what we do." Elena's eyes widened. "And whatever we do, they're judging." Across the globe, eyes turned skyward. Military radars, telescopes, and even amateur astronomers captured the event. The message was clear: humanity was being watched. Every action, every decision, every instinct was under scrutiny. And in that moment, one question burned in every mind: are we ready for what comes next? The ship hovered silently, massive and unyielding. It made no sound, no threat, and yet its presence alone ignited a storm of fear and wonder. Humans had encountered something beyond imagination. Something that could decide the fate of their species with a single observation. And the night ended not with destruction, but with anticipation. Because the Real story was just beginning, and humanity had yet to prove what it was truly capable of. The morning after the alien ship appeared, the world was still in shock. News channels repeated the same images: massive, silent vessels hovering above Earth's major cities. Governments had issued statements, but no one had answers. Everyone knew the aliens were real, and watching. At the Global Space Observation Center, Dr. Elena Harris stared at the monitors. The blinking lights on the ship had changed overnight, forming patterns too complex for any human technology. "They're trying to communicate," she said quietly. "We just don't understand their language yet." Dr. Raj Patel adjusted the telescope. "Or maybe they're testing us. Every movement we make is part of their experiment." His words hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. In Washington, General Marcus Reed convened a global military council. "We cannot let panic spread," he said firmly. "But we also cannot assume they are friendly. Our top priority is to understand their intentions before they understand ours." Scientists and linguists worked around the clock to decode the patterns. They tried lights, sounds, even simple mathematical sequences, but every attempt seemed to bounce off an invisible wall of intelligence. The aliens responded to nothing directly, but they observed everything. Then, in a remote desert base, something happened that no one expected. A beam of soft blue light extended from the ship to the ground. Instruments went haywire again. Within the light, a shape began to materialize, tall, thin, and glowing faintly. Its form was unlike any creature humans had seen. Its eyes, or whatever they used to perceive, reflected intelligence, curiosity, and something more: calculating. The scientists froze. Dr. Harris whispered, "It's real. It's actually real." The alien did not speak in words. There was no voice, no sound at all. And yet, somehow, the team understood the intent: observation, analysis, and silent assessment. Every movement of the humans was mirrored by a careful, deliberate study. The creature seemed to be learning about them, watching how they reacted to its presence. Across the globe, similar events occurred. Ships hovered above major cities, and some sent down beams that allowed glimpses of the beings. People reported visions of strange forms, glowing structures, and patterns that made no sense, but somehow felt meaningful. Children seemed to understand the shapes intuitively, while adults struggled to comprehend. Military teams debated how to respond. Some argued for caution, others for aggression. "We can't just wait," said Colonel Vega. "We need to show strength, make them respect us." But others warned that any attack could trigger disaster. The tension was palpable. Meanwhile, Dr. Harris realized that the aliens were not entirely indifferent. Their actions were calculated, almost testing human responses. When a drone approached too close, the alien ship responded, not with violence, but with precision. The drone was lifted gently by a beam of energy, studied, and then returned, unharmed. "They're not attacking yet," whispered Dr. Patel. "But they're making it clear that they could." Then came the first direct communication. A holographic-like pattern appeared above the desert base: shapes, symbols, and flashes of light. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the aliens were attempting to teach something. Dr. Harris felt a strange resonance in her mind, as if understanding was just within reach, yet always slipping away. Outside, panic and awe battled within the world. People crowded streets, pointed at the sky, and recorded videos of lights and shapes that defied explanation. Governments issued calm statements, but citizens were captivated, terrified, and fascinated all at once. The alien presence was unlike any threat humanity had faced. There were no weapons displayed, no demands made, and yet everyone felt the weight of observation. Humans were being measured not by strength, but by reaction, by intellect, curiosity, and the courage to face the unknown. At the desert base, Dr. Harris and her team finally managed to display a simple message, a light sequence mimicking the pattern the aliens had used. For a moment, the beam paused, hovering in mid-air. Then, a ripple of recognition passed across the ship's surface. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. The aliens had acknowledged human effort. A cheer erupted from the team, but it was tempered by a shared understanding. This was not victory. This was a test. And the aliens were far from finished. As the sun rose over the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold, Dr. Harris whispered, "They're watching, and they're judging. Everything we do now matters." General Reed, watching the live feed, clenched his jaw. "Prepare the teams," he said. "We're not just observers anymore. Humanity is on the stage. And we have to prove we belong here." The world held its breath. Humanity had made contact, but the real challenge was only beginning. Days had passed since the first contact, yet the alien ships remained in orbit, silent and unyielding. Humanity had learned one thing very clearly. The visitors were intelligent, patient, and observant beyond imagination. Every gesture, every movement, every decision was noted, as if the entire planet were under an invisible microscope. Dr. Elena Harris spent long hours analyzing the patterns of lights the aliens had displayed. Slowly, she began to see a structure in their communication, a sequence that repeated itself, almost like a rhythm or a code. "They're not just watching," she whispered to Dr. Patel. "They're studying us. Studying how we react, how we think." Raj frowned. "Studying us? Why? What could we possibly teach them?" Elena shook her head. "Not teach them, Raj. They're comparing us, testing us. And I'm afraid we're the subject of their experiment." Across the globe, the military was becoming restless. General Marcus Reed convened another council, voices tense and urgent. "We cannot assume the aliens are friendly," he said. "But they haven't attacked. That gives us time. We need to understand their motives before anyone does something irreversible." Meanwhile, small incidents continued to happen. In one city, a group of civilians had a brief encounter with a descending light from the alien ship. The light scanned them, touching each person with an invisible presence that left them shaken but unharmed. Children seemed to feel curiosity instead of fear, while adults were unnerved, their instincts warning them of danger. Dr. Harris realized the pattern was clear. The aliens were testing reactions, emotional, intellectual, and instinctive. They wanted to see how humans would respond under pressure, how quickly they could adapt, and how creativity would arise in moments of uncertainty. General Reed and his advisors debated their next move. Some argued for cautious cooperation, using science and diplomacy to prove humanity's intelligence. Others called for displays of power, showing the aliens that humans were not to be trifled with. The tension within the council mirrored the tension across the world. Humans were not only trying to understand the aliens, they were trying to understand themselves. Then came the first truly alarming incident. A research drone, sent to study the ship more closely, was suddenly surrounded by a halo of alien energy. The lights on the vessel pulsed with speed and precision, scanning every component of the drone. Within seconds, the drone's cameras transmitted images back to Earth, patterns and symbols overlaid on the world below, as if the aliens were mapping human activity in real time. Dr. Patel stepped back, pale. "They're mapping us, every city, every building, every person." Elena's hands shook slightly as she replied, "It's not just mapping. They're evaluating. Every decision we make, every instinct we follow, It's all being recorded. They want to see who we are, what makes us predators. The word hung in the air, heavy and shocking. Predators. Not in the sense of violence or war, but in terms of intellect, adaptability, and survival. The aliens were comparing humanity to themselves, or perhaps to something greater. Night fell, and across the world, the ships shifted position. Lights from the vessels scanned oceans, forests, and deserts. Humans noticed patterns emerging, seemingly random yet precise, almost like a cosmic test. Governments urged calm, but public fear was growing. People felt powerless, small, and observed in a way no one had ever experienced. At the desert base, Elena had an idea. If we can understand one part of their logic, maybe we can respond in a way they respect, she said. Her team worked tirelessly, simulating responses, running scenarios, and trying to anticipate the alien patterns. Outside, small civilian actions were also under scrutiny. People acted normally, yet their smallest reactions, helping a stranger, showing courage, or displaying creativity, were all measured. The aliens were not attacking, yet the tension felt like a cage, invisible but unyielding. General Reed's voice broke through the communication lines. They're testing us. They're watching how we act when faced with uncertainty. Every instinct, every thought, it's being judged. And humanity realized a chilling truth: survival was not enough. Strength alone could not win this test. They had to think, adapt, and act in ways even the aliens might not anticipate. As the night deepened, a single pulse of light shot from the largest ship toward the desert base. It hovered silently, immense and intimidating. The scientists froze, hearts pounding. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the light retracted. But the message was clear: the trial had begun. Humanity's responses would be observed, measured, and tested. Dr. Harris looked at her team, eyes wide. This is only the beginning. They are watching. They are judging. And we have to prove that we are more than just survivors. That we are the true predators of this world. Across the globe, the world waited in silent anticipation. The aliens did not need weapons. They had intellect, observation, and patience. Humanity had to rise to the challenge, not with brute force, but with courage, creativity, and strategy. And in that moment, every human being became part of something far greater than themselves. The night ended not in fear, but in determination. Humanity had glimpsed the measure of its own potential, and the true test had only just begun. The morning sun barely broke over the horizon when the first true test began. Humanity had been watched for days, their instincts, decisions, and reactions under scrutiny. But now, something shifted. A minor mistake, a small act of human error, sparked an event that no one could ignore. At a coastal research facility, a drone had been sent too close to the alien vessel. Scientists monitored the feed nervously, aware of the risks. Suddenly, the drone's camera feed went static, and a pulse of energy shot from the ship. Instruments flickered, alarms rang, and a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the metal floors and walls. Dr. Elena Harris grabbed the console, her heart racing. Pull it back. Pull it back now. But the drone was already caught in an invisible field, lifted gently from the water, spinning slowly as if examined by unseen hands. The team froze, realizing they had triggered the aliens' attention in a direct way. Across the world, military satellites captured the same behavior. The ships were no longer passive observers, they were reacting. But it was not mindless violence. The aliens demonstrated control and precision, their actions measured, almost surgical. No humans were harmed, but the message was clear: they could. General Marcus Reed watched the live feeds with a clenched jaw. They're teaching us discipline, he muttered. They want to see how we handle mistakes under pressure. Meanwhile, panic spread through the city near the research base. Civilians saw the ship above, its massive form reflecting sunlight, casting a shadow over streets and buildings. Phones captured the event, videos spreading across social media within seconds. Fear mixed with awe as people realized humanity was facing beings far beyond imagination. Back at the base, Dr. Harris studied the data. The drone had returned, intact, but the recordings were filled with strange light patterns. "They're analyzing every movement, every angle," she said. "They're learning how we think, how we act. And we just made the first mistake they wanted to test." Colonel Vega, observing the same footage in the military command center, frowned. "We can't make another mistake. Not now. They're testing our limits." The day continued with tense observation. The aliens shifted their vessels, scanning oceans, forests, and cities. Minor incidents, misunderstandings, accidental drone movements, civilian actions, triggered small responses, each one controlled, precise, and calculated. Humanity realized quickly that the ships were not weapons in the conventional sense. Their power lay in their observation and ability to react with terrifying intelligence. At nightfall, a single beam descended over a desert training facility. Soldiers had been running drills, unaware that they were under direct observation. The beam enveloped the ground around them, and holographic patterns formed in the air, illustrating simulations of past human actions. Every choice, every tactic, every instinct was mirrored back to them, forcing reflection and adaptation. Dr. Harris and her team watched from afar, hearts pounding. "They're not punishing us, they're testing us," she said. "Every reaction, every decision, it matters. They want to know if we can think, adapt, survive." The aliens' precision left humans humbled. In every incident, there was no chaos, no random destruction. Everything was measured, calculated, and purposeful. And slowly, a terrifying realization spread among the scientists and military alike. The aliens were not here to conquer, they were here to determine who the real predators were. Across the world, news headlines reflected a mix of fear and fascination. Humans under alien observation, test or threat? Are we ready to prove our worth? The day the sky watched us. Humanity had been pushed to its limits, yet no blood had been spilled. The lesson was clear. This was a challenge of intellect, creativity, and courage, not weapons or brute force. As the sun set, the largest alien ship hovered silently above the horizon. A pulse of blue light washed over the desert base, signaling the end of the day's trial. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians alike were left with the same thought. Humanity had survived the first incident, but the real test was just beginning. Dr. Harris turned to her team, her voice steady despite the tension. "They're watching. They're judging. And tomorrow will be even harder." General Reed, watching the massive vessel against the twilight sky, nodded slowly. "Then we prepare. We adapt. And we prove that humanity is more than just survival. We are predators in our own right." The night ended not in destruction, but in determination. Humanity had faced the first challenge and survived. But the aliens had made one thing perfectly clear. Their tests would continue, and only the smartest, most adaptable, and most courageous would endure. The world had changed overnight. Humanity had survived its first direct test, but the weight of observation was heavier than ever. Across cities, deserts, and oceans, people moved with a mix of caution and determination, knowing that the aliens were watching every choice, every instinct, every movement. At the Global Space Observation Center, Dr. Elena Harris gathered her team. "We've learned a lot," she said, pointing at the screens filled with patterns of alien activity. "They're not here to attack. They're here to test us. And if we want to succeed, we need strategy, creativity, and unity." Dr. Raj Patel nodded. "We've been reacting. Now it's time to act, on our terms." Across the globe, military units and scientific teams coordinated like never before. Cities were connected through secure networks, sharing data and observations. Engineers developed drones and equipment designed not to provoke, but to respond intelligently. Soldiers trained not just for combat, but for adaptability, observation, and quick decision-making. The first small victory came from an unexpected source, a team of engineers in South Africa. They deployed a drone that mimicked the patterns the aliens had been using, a calculated move designed to communicate understanding rather than challenge. The drone approached the largest ship cautiously, hovering in precise sequences. The response was immediate. The ship's lights blinked in a complex pattern, acknowledging the human effort. Dr. Harris watched the live feed, her breath caught in her throat. They understand what we're trying to do," she whispered. Across the oceans, other teams tried similar tactics. Scientists created holographic displays to mirror alien communication. Civilians followed instructions carefully, performing simple acts of creativity and courage. Every success, no matter how small, was recorded, measured, and respected by the observers in the sky. But it wasn't easy. Mistakes still happened, triggering waves of blue light from the ships, or sudden energy pulses that disrupted equipment. Each failure was a reminder. The aliens were patient, but they were relentless. Humanity had to be precise, thoughtful, and innovative. General Marcus Reed realized that the strategy wasn't about weapons or power, it was about unpredictability, intelligence, and adaptability. "They're testing our minds, not our guns," he said during a global briefing. "We must be smart, coordinated, and courageous. That's how we prove ourselves." Night fell, and the aliens shifted their vessels again, scanning forests, deserts, and cities. Teams on Earth observed subtle changes in the ship's lights, learning from previous trials and refining their responses. Every successful adaptation felt like a small victory, a step toward proving that humans were more than just survival machines, they were thinkers, creators, and problem-solvers. In a quiet desert base, Dr. Harris and her team celebrated a breakthrough. They had managed to replicate a sequence that the aliens seemed to recognize as intelligent. For the first time, the observers paused, their lights pulsing slowly as if considering humanity's capability. Raj smiled, finally allowing himself a moment of relief. "We're making progress. We're learning faster than they expect." But the celebration was tempered by caution. The aliens had yet to show their full capability. Every successful maneuver brought new challenges, new tests, and new tension. Humanity had survived the first incident, but the true trials were far from over. Global leaders began to acknowledge the change. Cooperation replaced fear, creativity replaced panic, and determination replaced despair. Humanity had realized that their greatest strength wasn't in weapons, numbers, or speed, it was in intelligence, adaptability, and courage under pressure. As night deepened, the largest alien ship hovered silently above the desert. Its lights pulsed in slow, rhythmic sequences, almost like a heartbeat. Dr. Harris stared at it, awe and determination blending in her expression. "They're watching us," she said. "They're testing us. And we're proving that humanity is more than just survival. We are adaptable, we are intelligent, and we are capable of extraordinary things." The world held its breath. Humanity had scored its first victories, small but meaningful. The trials were escalating, but so were human responses. Every mind, every act, every decision mattered more than ever. And as the night ended, one thought spread across the planet. Humanity was not just surviving this test, they were beginning to rise to it. The world had grown used to the alien presence, yet nothing had prepared humanity for what came next. The largest ship, now fully illuminated against the night sky, pulsed with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. Across continents, humans sensed the escalation. This was no longer observation or small tests, this was the final trial. Dr. Elena Harris stood with her team at the desert base, monitors glowing with data from satellites, drones, and sensors around the world. "They're testing everything," she said, voice tense. "Our intelligence, our instincts, our cooperation, even our morality. Nothing will be ignored." Across the globe, humans scrambled to prepare. Military units, scientists, and engineers coordinated at unprecedented speed. Every city, every research facility, every remote base became a hub of planning and adaptation. Yet even with coordination, the challenges were unlike anything seen before. The first test was psychological. Beams of light projected illusions across cities, forests, and deserts. Streets filled with shapes, shadows, and images that played on human fears, doubts, and instincts. People froze, hesitated, and some panicked, but those who stayed calm, thought creatively, and acted decisively past the first layer of evaluation. Dr. Patel monitored a simulation where a group of soldiers had to navigate shifting holographic terrains. Each wrong choice triggered a pulse of energy from the alien vessel, harmless but illuminating, marking mistakes. "They're watching every reaction," he said, awe mixed with fear. "They want to see how we adapt under pressure." The second test was tactical. Alien drones hovered above major cities, creating obstacles in the sky and on the ground. Humans had to predict their movements, coordinate responses, and act without hesitation. Teams that improvised cleverly, used minimal resources, or cooperated across regions succeeded. Those who relied only on brute force or rigid planning failed, their errors recorded silently by the watching ships. Meanwhile, small acts of morality and ingenuity were rewarded in subtle ways. A child who shared water with strangers, a medic who risked their safety to save lives, engineers who found creative solutions under impossible time constraints, every such act seemed to resonate with the observers. Humans began to realize that the trial was not only about survival or skill, but about what made them uniquely human. As night fell, the largest ship projected a massive light field over a remote desert valley. Here, humans faced the most difficult challenge: cooperation under extreme stress. Scientists, soldiers, and civilians from across the globe were linked through holographic interfaces, tasked with solving puzzles that required simultaneous action, intuition, and trust. Failure meant repetition, lessons in adaptation, and relentless observation. Dr. Harris guided her team, voice calm but urgent. "Focus on communication. Trust your instincts. Think creatively. The aliens are testing how we work together, not just what we know." Hours passed. Mistakes were made. Adjustments were constant. Yet with every challenge, humans learned, adapted, and began to excel. The aliens, silent and massive in orbit, adjusted their tests accordingly, each one harder, more complex, more demanding. Yet humanity refused to falter. Finally, in the darkest hours before dawn, a subtle change occurred. The alien ship's lights pulsed slower, more rhythmically, almost like acknowledgement. Humanity had survived the final trial, not perfectly, but with enough ingenuity, courage, and adaptability to impress beings far beyond comprehension. Dr. Patel let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. They're recognizing us," he whispered. "All of our efforts, every adaptation, they see it." Dr. Harris nodded, eyes shining with relief and awe. "We've proven that humanity isn't just survivors. We are thinkers, creators, and, when necessary, predators in our own right. We adapt, we learn, and we act in ways even they cannot fully predict." Across the globe, people noticed subtle changes in the alien ship's lights. For the first time, there was no pressure, no testing beams, no illusions, only a quiet, almost respectful stillness. Humanity had endured, adapted, and triumphed, not through weapons or dominance, but through intelligence, creativity, and courage. General Marcus Reed, standing under the night sky, felt the weight of the moment. "We have faced what no species before has faced. We were judged by beings far beyond our understanding, and we survived. We have shown them what humanity truly is." The world exhaled. Cities lit up, people celebrated cautiously, and yet everyone knew this was a beginning, not an end. Humanity had proven itself, but the universe was vast, and the visitors were patient. One truth remained clear: when faced with the impossible, humanity could rise, adapt, and prevail. As the first rays of sunlight touched the horizon, the alien vessels hovered silently, massive and unwavering. The trial was complete. Humanity had passed. And for the first time, the planet felt the quiet thrill of being recognized, not as prey, not as secondary, but as a species worthy of respect in a universe far bigger than themselves. The alien ships hovered silently above the Earth, their massive forms reflecting the sunlight like liquid mirrors. After days and nights of observation, tests and trials, the world waited with bated breath. Humanity had survived, adapted, and proved itself. Now, at last, the verdict would be revealed. At the desert base, Dr. Elena Harris and her team watched the largest ship. Its surface shimmered, sending waves of pulsing light across the landscape. The light was no longer threatening, no longer a test. It was deliberate, precise, and, somehow, recognizably respectful. Dr. Patel exhaled slowly. "They're acknowledging us," he whispered. "Not just as survivors, but as something more." Across the globe, satellites and drones captured the same phenomenon. The ships projected holographic displays into the sky, not chaotic patterns this time, but images that represented unity, intelligence, and respect. Humanity understood, finally, that the visitors recognized their potential, their ingenuity, and their spirit. General Marcus Reed stood beneath the largest vessel, eyes fixed on the sky. For the first time, he allowed himself a smile. "They see us," he said softly. "They see what humans really are." It was a moment of global awakening. People emerged from homes, offices, and shelters, gazing upward. There was no panic, no fear, only awe and pride. Humanity had been tested against beings far beyond comprehension, and for the first time, the planet felt a quiet, collective triumph. Dr. Harris felt tears in her eyes. "We proved something," she said to her team. "Not just that we can survive, but that we can rise to any challenge. That we can adapt, learn, and act with intelligence and courage. That we are the real predators." The aliens did not speak. Their acknowledgement was not verbal, but it was unmistakable. Subtle shifts in light, hovering patterns, and holographic symbols conveyed a message humans could feel if not entirely understand. Respect, recognition, and perhaps even admiration. Across oceans and continents, humanity celebrated cautiously but meaningfully. Leaders addressed nations, not with commands, but with reminders. Cooperation, creativity, and courage had won the day. Citizens shared stories of bravery, innovation, and clever thinking during the trials. Even the smallest acts mattered. They had been seen and measured, and they contributed to the triumph. Yet, even in the celebration, there was humility. Humanity understood the scale of the universe and the intelligence that had observed them. There was awe, yes, but also awareness. This was only one encounter, one judgment in a cosmos filled with unknowns. At the desert base, Dr. Harris looked up one last time at the shimmering ship. "We are recognized," she said. "But we are also challenged. The universe is vast. And now, we know that when we face the impossible, we can rise. We can prove ourselves. We can endure." General Reed nodded. "We have shown them who we are. And we have shown ourselves." As the alien ships began to slowly move away, retreating into the vastness of space, their presence left humanity changed. The planet was no longer alone. The species that had survived millennia of challenges on Earth had now survived its first encounter with the universe. Humanity had been tested, judged, and ultimately recognized. And somewhere deep in every human heart, there was a quiet, unshakable understanding. The universe had seen them, and humanity had shown its true strength. Not through violence, not through domination, but through intelligence, creativity, courage, and the unyielding spirit that had made them the masters of their own world. For the first time in history, Earth did not feel small. It felt alive, connected, and respected. Humanity had proven itself, not just to the stars, but to itself. And the story of that day, the day the universe watched, would be remembered forever.